Welcome to the Elevate podcast. This series focuses on elevating and inspiring women and girls into or to remain in the tech sector from the classroom to the boardroom. I'm Kelly Kwarteng, founder and CEO of Helzac and host of the show. Welcome to another episode of the Elevate podcast series. Today we're speaking to the truly inspiring Dr. Pauldy Otermans. Dr. Pauldy is a female tech leader in the UK. She is a neuroscientist and psychologist by academic background and a female leader in AI technology. She was awarded as the Inspirational Women in the Tech Industry by Hustle Awards, was named one of the 22 most influential women in the UK of 2022 by Startup magazine, and has also been awarded by the UK Prime Minister in 2021. Among other recognitions globally. Pauldy is a co-founder of Otermans Institute, which built the first independent AI teacher, AI, with the mission to upskill 750 million underserved students globally by 2030. So thanks so much for coming on the show today with us, Dr. Pauldy. It's an absolute honour. And if it's okay with you, we'll jump straight into learning more about Otermans Institute.
Yeah, let's start. Let's go. I'm ready.
Perfect. So in today's tech-centric world, AI is, as we know, one of the most hot topics on most people's lips, so to speak. So could you start by introducing us to Otermans Institute and its groundbreaking creation, the world's first digital human AI teacher, AI, and give us a bit more info on what the mission and the vision was behind your organisation.
Yeah, thank you so much, Kelly, and thank you for having me on your podcast series today. It's actually quite a story, I must say. We founded Otermans Institute in 2020, which now seems quite a long time ago, but it also still feels like yesterday. And our original goal was, we had traveled actually through Southeast Asia, and our goal was to provide students, particularly female students, with more opportunities to learn more about STEM subjects. And whilst we had gone to Nepal, Bangladesh, India, we actually found that whilst we are interacting with learners, so students from a variety of ages, but also teachers and principals and other people in the education sector, we found out that actually, yes, women in STEM is still a problem, but we actually found that there may be even a bigger problem there, is that a lot of people there couldn't get a job. And they had degrees, and I'm not saying you need necessarily a degree, but it was quite surprising that even those with like undergraduate or master degrees, the unemployment rates were still very high. And we thought, this is a bit strange. Why would that be the case? So we did a lot of work. We did a lot of discussions, a lot of interviews, lots of conversations with lots of different people and stakeholders. And we found that there's a big gap in the way they get taught transferable skills, or I would actually say the lack thereof, of teaching these learners those skills. A lot of them didn't know how to write a CV, had no clue how to go and, let's say, behave and answer interview questions, and hence obviously were not able to get a job. So we thought, this is actually a bigger problem maybe to solve now, and then we'll try and see if we can get the STEM back into it as well. So we founded Otermans Institute, and then obviously lockdown started. As we all know, we were quite stuck to our houses. We couldn't go anywhere. And that for us was a real problem, because we started with a training program in person, face to face. And obviously that had to be all turned around into a digital setting. That was already quite challenging in itself. But then what was even more challenging is that we then grew rapidly. Within a scope of, I would say, 8 to 9 months, sort of the biggest lockdown period in the UK, we had expanded to 11 countries, and we almost couldn't keep up with the demands, because there were lots of people that were interested in doing our program. We had our own trainers, and we really were grateful for a lot. And I must say, a lot of female trainers from universities or students, they came to us and actually said, can I volunteer? I would like to, get some practice. And we had to take them on board, because there were so many people that were interested. And what we found out that this is actually not sustainable, because with teaching and training, there's a lot of quality assurance. Every teacher teaches in a different way. If you would be teaching me today something, and I would go and teach someone else tomorrow, maybe the same topic, both of us We'll cover the same content, but we'll do it with our own style, in our own ways. You may use different activities, you show different examples, because every human is unique in their own experiences. And we very much see that in teaching, in the way we try to transform knowledge from sort of our side to the learner. So we thought, what we see here is actually what we did. We did a lot of research on our own program, and what we found is that a lot of the learners said the trainers, they made it happen. Of course, the content was there and it was good and they passed their exam and all of that was great, but the trainer was the key part. So we said, okay, how can we how can we scale up this trainer? And everything, well, we need to use technology and not technology just using Zoom, which we were already doing, but further. So we said, why don't we see if we can use AI to create a digital human teacher that can teach anyone, anywhere from their pocket? So that became our goal, our vision, to provide teaching, to basically reduce the barrier of teaching accessibility and quality as well of teaching, so that everyone has a teacher in their pocket, because there are not enough teachers out there in the world. And if you want someone to teach you something that you don't know, it's not easily available. You either have to pay a lot of money for private tutoring, for instance, or extra sessions after school. You may learn that in the evening. I don't think if you call your teacher in the evening, they'll be very happy. So there is, lots of barriers when it comes to access to teaching. And we believe that AI can be really a solution there to level the playing field much more. And then with that, to then solve the global skills and knowledge gap. And in the end, our mission is then to upskill 750 million learners by 2030. So that's, I guess, us in a nutshell.
Wow. I mean, we talk a lot about COVID and all of the negative sides of COVID and all the tragedy that came along, but so many great things were born and came out of it. And by the sounds of things, Otermans Institute and your digital teacher in a pocket is going to be something that's going to be groundbreaking and potentially change how people can learn, like you said, and the access to teaching as well. I think it's truly remarkable to see how AI can transform education and inspire the next generation. Obviously, you spoke about how you was able to reach so many people, how teachers make an impact. And I think back to being at school, teachers truly do make an impact. Even now, my children are at school, and they're like, there's certain teachers that can just get them to do pretty much anything. I wish they could come and live in my house. But can you share some examples of how OI is already making a difference? You did kind of go into it a little bit into your introduction there, but maybe if we looked at it, how it's encouraging girls worldwide to potentially consider tech careers, give them that accessibility to STEM subjects, like you mentioned, and in the regions where resources are limited.
Yes, and that's definitely an area of focus for us. So we started, as I mentioned, with serving those underserved, and this group of learners definitely remains a priority for us at Otermans Institute. There's no doubt about it. So in fact, our first AI teaching with our first digital teacher was done in a BCF UNHCR camp, a refugee camp in northern Iraq in 2021. And this was for anybody who wanted to learn in these refugee and displaced people camps, not just women. And that got great success. They loved the teacher. They loved interacting with her. At the beginning, they were a bit maybe skeptical, but then they were a bit shy and they didn't say much to us because we let them interact with the teacher, and then we asked them lots of questions, of course, because we wanted to know whether they liked it and what they thought about it. We wanted to hear their views. And I still remember, and one of the girls actually, she typed on Zoom. She didn't say it, but she typed and she said, "Wow, she's speaking to me." And that was really groundbreaking for us to hear that they were really interacting with the teacher. And they actually, of course, they learned, but they had a lot of fun. And I think that is really important when it comes to learning, that you're having fun. Yeah. Because learning without fun, well, it's not fun, but it's also not very useful and very successful and beneficial for the learning journey that you're going through. So when you're having fun, it's much better for your retention, for your focus, your concentration, and in the end, you just learn much better. Separately also, we had a cohort, I think consisting of about 60% women in Afghanistan for TVET, which is their technical and vocational education.
Right.
Studies just months before the government fell there. And when you're using tools like Beatrice, they can provide teaching to those people like the girls in Afghanistan, whose, well, at the moment at least, right to learning and education has suddenly really been just snatched away. Just when the government fell, we lost contact with them for the majority of them. And having something like an AI teacher in your pocket, at least they can continue their journey and they can still learning and they don't fall further behind, because that's what shouldn't often happen when the right to learning is taken away from you. How will you continue learning? How will you understand that even if you're watching videos or you read a book, you're still not sure if you actually understood what it is that you're reading and what you're trying to learn. Yeah. And when you have a teacher at your disposal, you can check that knowledge. They can check you, of course, as well. They can quiz you. But you can also clear any doubts, ask questions, and maybe not just questions to clarify, but, intriguing questions. Your curiosity comes out when you're learning. So that was another batch of particularly women that we served. We also work with organizations or charities such as Think Malawi in the UK. And with them, we support the learners, well, in Malawi, as the name suggested. And many of those learners were also women. And they also, learned a lot of things through interacting with us. And finally, I think from what we've already done is we've partnered with a digital learning platform, and we provided our AI to Weave Connect, which is a digital learning platform for upskilling of women in South Africa, particularly women who have dropped out of education.
Right.
Often also more mature students, in this case, mature learners. And what we saw were very interesting results there. So by having our AI on their platform, we saw that about 73%, I believe, of the people that interacted now knew what to learn next due to the interaction they've had with AI. And I believe it was 74% of women, they were all women that took part in the study. They said they would come back to the platform because of interacting with AI. So we saw there was a big impact in their learning journeys and their, I guess, also willingness to continue their learning and maybe keep their learning going again. They got motivated to do that, and especially that they now knew what to do was quite impactful for us to hear. So those, I think, are some examples of how we have started making an impact or making a difference using AI.
Brilliant. I mean, a lot of what you're talking about there, it's that accessibility, flexibility as well. I think, for me, if I was to pursue a tech career today, I think one of my biggest concerns would be my confidence. I wouldn't want to speak out. Whereas if you've got a teacher you can interact with, and if it's one-to-one or however the setup is, that engagement that you must get and the students must get, because actually if you ask the wrong question or you're not quite sure, you've got someone there. So it sounds like a fantastic way to learn, engage the user, the learner, and that accessibility piece. Some of the countries that you mentioned and some of the women that you've already started to support is just fantastic. And you mentioned like Afghanistan, obviously, a lot of these countries, the learning has just been taken away, and this is probably a great way to potentially bring it back to them, which is great to hear. You mentioned there Beatrice. People are probably thinking, well, who's Beatrice? What is that? Could you elaborate a little bit more on how AI is used to create teachers? And I believe your teachers, it's Beatrice and Teddy, is that right? And how these digital human
teachers that's right,
interact with their students.
Yeah, that's a good question, and I realize I hadn't explained yet what Beatrice is. So AI is Otermans Institute Artificial Intelligence, and that's really the core of what we do. So AI is like, let's say, our brain that has obviously lots of data in it, and the core of everything really is language models, large language models. Right, and we are focusing very much on language models for education. So that's really at the core of it. So we have quite a big tech team. There's quite a lot of machine learning engineers working on fine-tuning that model so that it's suitable for education. So that's where it's slightly different, for instance, to like a ChatGPT, one that I think all of us have heard of and may have already interacted with as well. It's a very generic general language model. We are very focused on an education one. Now, that is, the knowledge base, so to speak. That's where it obviously all starts. Now, that model then needs to interact with our user, with the learners, the people that are interested to learn new things. And there's a lot of also psychological principles behind those interactions. So, thinking about the way you would start a session. So if we would be, let's say I was your tutor, and today we had a session on Zoom, let's say, and we would start probably with some chit chat. I'm not going to dive straight in and start quizzing you on, I don't know, geography or whatever it is that I'm tutoring you about. But we would have some chit chat, to set the scene, break the ice. Maybe if I've taught you a few times, I may know a bit more about you, and I might say, oh, what did you do for the weekend? Or you mentioned you were going on a trip. How was it? How did it go? I might also talk to you at the beginning about things that are not directly relevant for your learning, but indirectly they are, because if you feel more comfortable and more, let's say, relaxed with your teacher, your learning will also go more smooth. So that's quite an important element that a lot of psychology, and I'm a psychologist, neuroscientist, comes, we bring that into our, when we're working with the tech team, into our models. And the same obviously with the ending and the way it then also interacts. So the teacher teaches a particular concept, and then it's, did you understand? Not just did you understand that? Okay, yes, no. That's not enough, right? We're going really deep, and the teacher can quiz, the teacher can ask open questions to see whether you understood what was taught, but also the other way around, because the teaching, we believe, is very much a, two-way conversation.
Yeah.
And that's where OR AI really stands out. It's conversational AI first. So it's not just that our teacher imparts all this knowledge on you and sort of, here you go. No, we are conversing with the learner, speaking and interacting with them to find out what it is that they want to learn, whether they understood what the AI teacher has taught them, and they can also ask questions. So, when you are on, I'm using Zoom or Teams, any of these platforms, and you're in a meeting or when you're learning, you raise that virtual hand icon. I always tend to just wave in a meeting because I forget the icon. But, the person who's facilitating or moderating is, this person has the hand up, what would you like to ask or what would you like to add? And the same with our AI teacher. You can also raise a virtual hand, because that seems to be a very clear icon for a lot of people to use. And then you can ask your question about what it is that she just explained, or maybe something else, or something from your own experience, and you want to see how that now fits what you've learned new, how that fits with what you thought about. So it is really two-way stream as such. Also, we do a lot of human-centered testing, and that's really important to get it right. So what we do there is, some smaller studies, some lot more bigger studies, is to fine-tune some of these elements as well and really interact with learners, either those that are already using our platform and get feedback from them, or trying to get new people and see who have not heard about us at all, and see what are their first interactions, their first ideas, their intuitively, what do they say, and see if that matches with what it is that we want to portray. So it goes, obviously we're working closely with our marketing team, the research team, and the tech team. All of them work very closely together on this to really see from human-centered design, what can we do in the design of it, in the way we interact, how it looks like. So there is a lot of work going behind the scene. And then we have the surface. So that's, let's say, the final layer. Not necessarily build the last. I would definitely not say that, because those people, that takes a long time to build. So, we have our own avatar for the humans. So at the moment we have Beatrice. We also have another model. If you're now want to interact with her, you can online. And then we have Teddy, particularly for children. So how Teddy is slightly different than, let's say, Beatrice. So Beatrice is very tailored for adults, or let's say 16 plus, who want to learn anything, either, outside of school, if they go to school, or just, you want to learn something new, you want to learn something for your job, you want to just you're interested in something just because it interests you, you can do that with AI Beatrice. If you're a child, especially between the ages, I think sort of 4 to 8, 4 to 9 years old, we have built Teddy AI, who is a conversational AI study buddy for those younger generations. And Teddy, again, is conversational AI first. So Teddy will speak to the child, interacts with the child can tell their stories, and then they can learn in an interactive, gamified way about different topics they would learn in school, because 4 to 8, 9 years old, learning about geography, history, I don't know, the capitals of the world, spelling, these type of topics. So in that way, it's very similar, but just for children. Yeah.
Perfect. I think, if I said to my son, you could be taught by a computer, I think he'd love that, because that's just where they are. They live on computers and it's their world. So it would have been awesome in lockdown, that's for sure. I think it would have saved a lot of parents' sanity. So in terms of the products then, so is Beatrice and Teddy, are they open to the public? Is it accessible for all at the moment? Is it something that's still building? If I was someone listening in right now and thinking, I'd love to kind of be able to access Beatrice, or let my child have a go with Teddy, how would they access, and what's the availability of the teachers right now?
Yeah, excellent question. Many of our products actually are available to the public as either early beta or sort of late beta versions. So in relation to Teddy, you can download Teddy on Android at the moment. So if you go to the Google Play Store, you can just check out Teddy AI. And currently we're also working on an iOS version, because we know a lot of people may not have an Android and they have the iOS. So that's something we're working on. So, keep your eye out on our website or the social media channels to hear more about that. And we also, what I'm really excited about actually, is we are also going to make our usable version of our own language model available for people to interact with, probably before sort of mid-October, to early users. So that's really exciting. And the other stuff, so the digital human teachers, you can find them on our website, oiedu.co.uk, and you can start interacting. And I would say finally, follow perhaps at least sort of one of our social media channels. We are on Instagram, X, Facebook, LinkedIn, Medium, and we really update things there regularly. And currently major updates really are coming out as sort of often as, weekly from our end. So, it's really exciting time, and, stay tuned, and we love to, also hear from people.
Perfect. And what I'll do is I'll put links to all of those social media channels that you mentioned in the podcast details, so anyone looking to interact, they can jump on there and access you. I suppose I'm going to be a bit controversial here. And obviously AI, some people look at it as kind of like a bad thing, and that it's going to overtake the world, it's going to take everyone's jobs away and everything else. Is AI kind of coming along to replace the traditional teacher in a classroom style? And what would you say to those that are listening in that potentially see that as a concern or a worry that's something that might happen in the future?
Yeah, that's an excellent question, and something we actually get often asked, as a lot of people are indeed quite skeptical when it comes to AI. Although I think AI is actually not necessarily that new. It's the way technology is evolving quite rapidly nowadays. That's probably what's more scary for most people. And we've seen already great usage and advantages of AI in the fields of medicine when it comes to diagnoses, and it's really fascinating. We are not building anything to replace teachers. I think we are very clear on that, and that's definitely the message we want to get out there. But AI can support and help teachers or people in the education world in doing something. It can support them. So there will be, let's say, more time free up for teachers to do lots of important things like personalized attention to students, organizing more interactive sessions, dealing with students on a one-by-one cases, doing more applied stuff that they learn, skills that they can use in the workplace or in the graduate world, or going to the next level of education. So we are not building anything to replace the teachers. We're there for now as a real support system. Also, as I mentioned at the beginning, if you're learning and you leave the classroom, whatever level of studies you may be at, your teacher is no longer there.
Yeah.
And you probably don't have access to them 24/7. At least I hope not, because that would be very difficult for those teachers involved. And you maybe, there is a lot of different types of learners. Some people also, learn visually. Some people like to read. Some people like to listen and read. Some people like to learn in the morning. Some people are more night people. Some people like to, learn in silence. Everybody sort of has their unique, almost like learning style. And once you leave the classroom, as I said, the teacher is no longer there. You have access to your resources, whether that's, videos and books and notes and handouts and everything else. But the teacher element is gone. And you need to wait until you meet that teacher next. And that could be the next day. It could be in a few days, but definitely not in that same evening. So with OR AI or with our products, you can still actively access teaching 24/7. And that's really revolutionizing, as previously, that was not the case. So now you do have 24/7 access to continue your learning journey. And then you still go to the classroom, you still interact with your peers, but outside of that, you also have that ability to either catch up, go over content again, clarify any doubts, so that you're also ready when you go back to the classroom.
Yeah, and it sounds like a great tool to have. For me, it's like enhanced learning, but like you said, with an actual physical teacher with you at whatever hour of the day that it is, that you need to be able to gain access to that. And I think that's going to be something that's going to be super powerful for anyone's learning journey, regardless of what they're trying to learn. So I think that's really remarkable. I'm going to switch things up a little bit. Obviously, we spoke about Otermans Institute, but I'm keen to talk to you about the AI field in general. And there's women that are potentially listening in right now, interested in the AI field, or women that are sitting there in tech. And in terms of AI as an industry, the investment that has come along, the growth that has been there, it's been significant. And like you said, it's not this new phenomenon. It's been around for years. But one thing that's no secret, and it's been spoken about a lot, is the lack of gender diversity within the AI workforce. So I think research shows that right now, roughly about 22% of the AI workforce is made up of women. So what barriers do you believe hinder women from entering the AI industry? And I don't know, how is Otermans Institute addressing these challenges?
Yeah, I think this is a very interesting question, and something that we actually discuss quite a lot internally. And as you mentioned, the field of AI is, not necessarily new, and this problem that we're facing, that 22% is really not a lot. And we really definitely want to see that number more going towards the 50%, I would say, if not more. But it's not a new challenge, right? It's a challenge that sits sort of in the larger tech sector, where AI is obviously part of. I believe that some barriers are, and some of them are also, come up out of research. But generally speaking, when I've spoken to women that are either interested or that have started their journey with us, what have been barriers that people have been facing, and what I've seen is that they're quite a few things, and they're also mixed. They don't always happen, all of them at once. But some women are just less confident in applying.
Yeah.
They see something and they think they don't have a chance. Women often want to ensure that female learners or employees, future employees, often want to ensure that they tick all the boxes. On your job description, it might say, essential criteria, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And what you often see is that women only would apply if they've ticked 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. All have the tick marks next to it. And then they yes, now I'm going to apply. Whilst if you look at their male counterparts, if they have 3 out of 5, yeah, let's go for it. So that's definitely a difference in behavior already from the start of who actually applies in the first place. So there is already a big barrier and a big challenge that we can overcome. And where many women just feel that they're not good enough. And then when it comes to the interview stage, of course, if there's already less women to choose from, because of the amount that actually applies, that often then leads that maybe their male counterparts are being chosen for the job. So I think that's quite a big barrier. Having said that, though, quite proud to say that in our team at Otermans Institute, about 40% are women. And we are always advertising, and communicating that, we're really keen on hearing from women. Even if maybe on paper they may not have everything, we often still have an interview with them. We often still want to see what their strengths are, where they can bring a difference. And apart from inclusivity and equality, we also take bias very seriously in our products. And it's something that you also mentioned. It definitely could lead to gender biases in AI products. So we definitely want to hear from women as well, that we have a more balanced perspective. So at the moment we're at 40%. At one point we were at 50%, but as I said, trying to return to that number and trying to increase it sort of every day. But yeah, there are those challenges that we're facing. However, I must say, looking at the wider tech sector, sort of more in general, and also looking particularly though at AI, it is quite promising, I must say. I think Mira, I think that's her name, the 30-something-year-old CTO of OpenAI. That's a great example, for girls, females that want to go in tech, they want to go in AI. CTO of OpenAI, can't say more than that. And also, I think finally, which links to a point we talked about before, I think a big plus point about AI is that AI sits within the tech industry, but it is a field that is almost sort of a combination of, let's say, computer science, other engineering fields, but also psychology, human-centered design, human-computer interactions. And here, especially those latter sort of individual subjects, a large number of the contributors sit within psychology, neuroscience backgrounds, like myself as well. And they also contribute very heavily to the design and the applications within AI. And there are lots more female candidates in those fields who take, courses like psychology, like neuroscience, also design actually, compared to, let's say, what one would call traditional, like engineering. Yeah. So I think that's also quite promising that this field is growing in itself to be a very diverse field from the point of view of the subjects that people are coming from. So I think that can also lead to a better mix in terms of gender. And anyway, having people from different backgrounds in terms of their subject knowledge always gives us lots of different perspectives when it comes to product development, which is anyway fantastic to hear different ideas and different views from people within different sectors, within different genders, different ethnicities, different backgrounds. I think having a variety there anyway is a plus point for any product that one is developing.
Definitely. And I think it's great that you kind of pulled a bit on your background, and obviously coming from a neuroscience and psychology background, and that transition into becoming an AI leader. I think that would be something that, yeah, it would be great to kind of learn a little bit more, because obviously the AI world has, it's probably, it's a fact, it is more male dominated than the females that are coming into the space. You mentioned obviously the OpenAI, you can't be what you can't see. Brilliant role model for all to be able to look up to. But it would be great to understand your journey, and how did you transition from being a neuroscientist, psychologist, and then being this pioneering woman in a field that is not completely different, because like I said, there is relation and it does link over. So yeah, why did that happen? What obstacles and challenges did you face on that transition, and how did you find the determination during that transitional phase, and potentially still the transitional phase now, to overcome that?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I actually have a background in biophysics, so maybe a slightly biased there already from the start. I studied biophysics in quite a while ago in the Netherlands, where I'm from originally, and that was very much a studies where you combined modules from physics, maths, some biology, some chemistry. And I must say we were quite lucky that our cohort was sort of 40-60 or maybe 50-50, But when you look more at the tech-related stuff and more the physics subjects, very male-dominated. And I was always quite intrigued in, the brain, how that works. Hence, obviously, going into neuroscience and neuroscience and psychology. And there you got more female students come along when the psychology students sort of joined the neuroscience part, where I came from more of a science, like tech, not necessarily tech, but more, let's say, physics background. You really, got a really great mix. What I've always had sort of throughout my entire journey is great mentors and people that I could look up to. They were not necessarily famous people. They could just be, a professor or, an academic mentor or someone who worked in the field or, a parent of a particular friend. And they were all more often than not female people. And that really helped me as an individual to discuss the barriers that I was facing in terms of, I also had that feeling, would that be good enough? Should I really go for that? I don't take necessarily all of it. In a while I'll be learning about that. I don't know that knowledge yet. So I often discussed it with, I don't necessarily must have called them mentors, but in hindsight, I would definitely call all these people mentors now. And I think that is very key aspect of any learning journey that you're on, whether you're actually still studying or not. Even if you're already working, it's always really important and beneficial to have a mentor that's without outside of your, let's say, own department, own bubble, because they bring they're such a great source of inspiration. They can bring so much experience, and they often bring a different perspective than what you had. And I think that is really beneficial. So I would definitely tell everybody out there, get yourself a female mentor. Lots of people very busy, but a lot of people also do like to give back to younger people that are fascinated by the field, what it is that you're doing. And that's something that once I had received, I guess before I got my PhD already, I did a lot of work with younger students, particularly female students who were not sure what they wanted to do, where to go. Do I go into neuroscience? Do I go into tech? Do I really want that? And a lot of them even said, but it's so male dominated. I don't even know if I want to be in that environment. Yeah. Just not because of the subject. They love the subject. They would definitely want to be an engineer or an AI scientist or an AI data analyst. But they're like, but there's so many males. But my advice always, well, if that's what you want to do, go for it, because that ultimately is what makes you happy. And the more people that will go for it, the better the balance becomes. And hopefully in a few, well, I wouldn't say years, I hope it's years and not more than a few years, we can actually say it's no longer a male dominated, but it's, very diverse when it comes to the people that contribute to it. So that would be my biggest piece of advice. And also, going around and, let's say, doing internships, shadowing people, almost like taking advantage of all these opportunities. And we do some of that work within Otermans Institute as well. We are often working also with volunteers to open up sort of what AI is. I think we may be one of the fewer companies that also just offer small summer internships for students and volunteering roles within AI and data. Because often there is a lot of training that you need to go through in order to understand maybe the particular model that we're working with or a particular software. So we also offer those opportunities. And for some of those students that have gone through those programs, they actually say, wow, I also have a better idea now of what AI and working in AI means, because that is something that for a lot of people is actually not that clear yet. And probably it's the same for a lot of other industries. When you're really young, you may not know what it is to be a doctor, a lawyer, and we have very stereotypical images of a lot of these fields in our head. But when you actually then practice and actively participate in 6 to 8 weeks or sometimes a few months, depending on time and mutual availability, it opens eyes for a lot of people. So that's something as well that we offer, that I think a lot of people almost should take advantage of, because you get connections, and whether or not you stay with a particular organization, whether that's us or someone else, you do get experience. You find out what it is that you like, and you grow a bit more confidence. Yeah. Because often, an internship, a placement, something like that, it's for a shorter period of time. It's not but your life sort of may depend on it later, because of these smaller experiences that are often, let's say, I'm putting this in quotes, like easy to do. They give you that entire point of view And you then often find out, hey, this is something I really want to contribute with later. So a lot of students then, go back to their studies, specialize more maybe in the field of AI or data analysis or design, or more from a research side, designing the studies to find out more what we can do with AI, what the applications can be, and then, build that further. And that's actually where my journey also sort of, came from. Very interested in human behavior, in motivation of people, and engagement, and particularly coming also from a teaching aspect, the interactivity between a teacher and a student. I very much believe that this should be an interaction and should not be a one-way stream. I should not give a monologue and then the students are there nodding their heads or not nodding their heads, pretending that they understand what I'm talking about. But that also is a two-way conversation, and I think the word conversation is so key. So that got me really, and then seeing the problems that there's not enough teachers in the world, and seeing the benefits that AI can bring in the education sector. I thought this is just huge, and this is something I definitely want to contribute to. Now, not necessarily writing all the code. My coding is definitely not, I'm definitely not an expert in that. I will happily admit that. I know a little bit, the basics, but that's about it. But there is, as I said, so much beyond that. AI does not equate to coding. We do a lot of work on the research design behind it, the testing with the people, seeing this model, that model, if we design it in this way. And that's where, again, like psychology, neuroscience, the behavior of people, the understanding of how people behave and interact come into play. And that's where I love that AI is such a interdisciplinary field where all these different people come together. So I guess that's sort of where I would come in my journey to AI.
I love that. And it's great to hear that you guys are offering internships. On an episode that I've done previously with Professor Jackie Carter from the University of Manchester. She talks about her data fellowships program, and what she does there is she gets students from humanities and social science background degree subjects and gives them internship opportunities into data analytics and data analysis. And it's I think she's done 350 students, and 70% of those, or 75%, have been females. And she's got people to go into a career now, or consider career options in data analytics that they never would have considered. And their skills and that transferable skills, like what you've just talked about, is something that they've realised that they can take, and it's bringing that, helping with that gender balance in tech and everything else. So it's great to hear that. And if there's any girls listening today and they're looking for something a bit different, I would definitely say to check you guys out. If someone was interested in an internship, how do they approach you? What do they need to do? Is it on your website? What would the steps be there?
Yeah, it's on the website, if I'm not mistaken. Otherwise, you can always just send us an email at info@oiedu.co.uk. Just, CV, a short paragraph of what it is that you would like sort of to do, what you want to get out of it. And then we can always have a chat to see, where it fits in terms of, the skill sets they have, what they want to learn, and what projects we at the moment have available, if there's any fit there. I would definitely also say that doing an internship, shadowing, placement, however you want to call it and name it, there's lots of different names for these things. Try it. And I think what you said with the data analysis, the example you gave, I think that's a really good example, because often we are afraid of something because we're not sure what it means. And we think, I don't know really what that is. So I'm just going to let that go. I'm going to go to this area because I feel more confident about that because I know more about it, or I know I'm a bit good at it, or at least I'm not bad at it. But when we often don't try something new. We as humans very stick to what we are, what we know, what we feel comfortable with. And we don't really easily get out of a comfort zone. And especially when we're younger, especially with females that are in the tech world, but maybe not sure yet where to go. They might stick to that field of tech they feel a bit more confident about. Yeah. But put yourself out there. You often have nothing to lose. just having a chat with someone can already make a big difference.
Yeah.
They often can give you resources, guidelines, and you know what? It may lead to that internship. It may lead to a few weeks of volunteering. That's also possible. You don't have to commit yourself for a year or for 6 months. You can also volunteer for a few hours a week for a period of time, and that might then give you a better idea of what it's about, and you may even like it.
Yeah.
So try that out. I think trying to get out of the comfort zone in a safe space, I think it's also important, because you don't want to apply for a job, get the job, and then realize, oh, this data analysis in AI is not what I want at all. But if you've tried it out, you can then see whether there's something you then want to go for. And obviously you can get good references and stuff as well, but that is for a later story. It's more about getting to know more about AI and working with it and experiencing and trying it out.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's that old saying of you don't know what you don't know. Being able to try things,
Yes.
well, especially if you're in education and you have that time to be able to do it, I think would be amazing. And I think it's great to hear that you are open to students coming on board. So we're kind of at the end of the episode now, and I'm just going to bring it back and finish it on Otermans Institute and the AI teachers. What's next? What does the future hold for Beatrice and Teddy? And is there anything exciting that's about to be released or due to come? Things that people should look out for?
Yeah, I think one immediate thing to celebrate is that at least 4 universities will be using OAI to teach students, which will be starting in a few weeks. At the moment, I cannot give more information on this until we officially launch, but the universities I can say are coming from more than one country. So that's really big for us. I'm really excited about that. Otherwise, for Teddy, we'll be launching more updates probably mid-October, with also increased control coming for parents to directly interact with Teddy and influence how Teddy can benefit their children. So it's not only the child that interacts with interacts with Teddy, but now the parent can have control over what Teddy speaks to, talks to with that child, and what sort of things you as a parent, you may want your child to learn more. And probably if you say, come on, you really have to study these multiplication tables of 2, and the child's like, no mom, no dad, I really don't want to do this. I'm really calmly bored. I want to go out and play. Well, okay, go and play with Teddy. And Teddy, you have told Teddy in your parental dashboard that, please Teddy, next time you interact with my child, study the multiplication of 2, study the capitals of the world or of Europe, or whatever it is that you feel is really important for your child's learning development. Maybe something they're not doing that well in school. That's also something that will be coming hopefully in mid-October. So keep an eye out on our channels for that. And I think maybe the more sort of longer future, because this is hopefully more immediate, but finally sort of in the long run, we don't see any hyper-focused language model and sort of a fundamentally AI company hyper-focusing on education. So we are the pioneers in this space, and if we can keep that up, we should be able to truly transform this education space, because we believe that education deserves more than what it is today. And hopefully we'll be able to give everyone a teacher in their pockets, and by doing so, be able to upskill 750 million learners by 2030.
Wow. Well, there we go. Let's see what the future holds. And it would be great to have a time machine to go to 2030. But by the sounds of how you spoke about things today, I've listened to other podcasts with you as well. I would say that vision is definitely going to be a reality that's going to be achieved. So thank you so much for sharing everything with us today. Really appreciate it. It's groundbreaking work that you and the team are doing there. And yeah, we look forward to seeing what's next, future updates. And yeah, thank you very much for having you on the Elevate Women in Tech podcast today.